Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. We're visiting with Pastor Walter Moss from Serve. Good morning.
Good morning, Susie. Thank you for having me.
Oh, always a joy to have you. Serve, spelled very funny, C-I-R-V.
Community Initiative to Reduce Violence.
Community Initiative to Reduce Violence. And you're doing some amazing work in the community.
You.
First of all, tell us a little bit about where you work, what you work out of, and how this all got started.
Okay, I work out of Stark County Prosecutor John Ferrero's office, and I'm in the Victims Witness Division. Well, this got started years ago. I was on a committee for Serve, and we had retired Captain Bruce Allison was the first director. It was a city project, and eventually they ran out of money, but we as a committee kept meeting quarterly. And about 4 years ago, the state of Ohio Criminal Justice Division said, hey, we would give you all $40,000 to hire a director. So our committee began to post it, put it out in the community, and they interviewed some individuals. I wasn't on that interview team, but anyway, long story short, they came back to me and said, hey, we had some good people, but we want you to apply.
That's awesome.
And I did, and I got the job. November 2013 is when I started to resurrect the project again.
That you had been working on before on a volunteer basis.
Yes.
Do you find that happens so many times that it might not be our plan, but it certainly is God's plan? And so many things that you do in your past work together to prepare you for what you're doing now. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I'll tell you, I retired May. This is May. It'll be 3 years ago.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And what is so awesome is that this is ministry.
Yes.
It really is, because I'm trying to stop violence, gun violence, gang violence, domestic violence, any violence with juveniles and adults. And it's really, really ministry.
How do we begin? How do you do your job? What does a day look like?
Well, what I love about it, every day is different. Mm-hmm. I may be in meetings in-house. I may be in meetings at someone else's office. I may be at a community events. Whatever I can do to talk to people about getting the message out, stop the violence. That's what I do. And so, I'm not the type of person that can sit behind a desk for 8 hours, 6 hours. I work 6 hours a day as a part-time. But whatever I do is all centered around crime prevention, stopping the violence. And we have a saying, make it right without a fight. And so really trying to work with our youth. We go to youth events, whatever it is, anywhere that we can go, and people can see our shirts, our hats, our cards that we pass out to put in people's mind. It can be even like a subliminal message to people. Stop the violence.
What is the climate like in our area?
Well, unfortunately, it takes on what's happening nationwide.
Yes.
Even though, this is Stark County, Canton, Ohio, Alliance, and Massillon. We're not Chicago, Los Angeles, but because we look at the number of the population, but for our population, we have a high crime, a lot of robberies. For the population, they go by 100,000 of people. So statistically, our region has a high crime rate. But I always say, it doesn't matter what city, where you live at, because in 1988, I lost my sister in New York. She lived in New York. She was shot and killed by her husband. And I tell you, when something happens to a person's relative, friend, etc., you don't ask, about the crime, because you felt that pain. And even today, I still can feel the pain of getting a call that my sister's been shot and she's dead. And so to me, it's just stopping that. If we can stop all of it, if we can stop that one, there we're helping another family to not have to go through this.
You really do work with victims and victims assistance.
Yes, our department offer assistance to victims, and the ladies that work in that department, man, they do an awesome job, and it is tremendous. And I'm glad that we have that. Not every county has a victims witness department, but we here in Stark County we do, and it's an awesome help to people.
No one would want you to have to go through the pain that you had to go through of losing your sister, but I would think that helps you relate to victims in a way someone else could not.
Right.
Do you find they receive you in a way that otherwise they would not?
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I had opportunity, I think maybe 3 years ago, to speak at a conference at Drake School. It was dealing with domestic violence, and I got a chance to share my story. And I got through it without crying. And some of the people came up to me afterwards and were thankful, that I shared that. Because, victims, relatives, friends, we carry that burden, that hurt, that pain. And it's always good to be able to talk about it and talk to others about it. And so people are very thankful and grateful for that.
Does there seem to be some kind of a thread that connects violent crimes? Or is there absolutely no pattern whatsoever?
Well, there probably is threads that psychologists, sociologists have identified. But, to be honest, spiritually speaking, it really goes all back to sin, to our sinful nature, and people not forgiving, people holding all these grudges in their hearts against people. And to me, it all goes back to sin. Selfishness.
Yeah. I'm gonna circle back to what you just said there, because I agree this is a spiritual problem.
Yes.
Others will say this is a poverty problem, an education problem. Can you talk about those things as well?
Well, definitely. And that's what I didn't want to say, because I don't want to use that as an excuse. Why? Because I grew up, they say, in poverty.
A lot of people
I grew up with a single mom. She raised 4 of us. And
did not turn to crime.
Right. And I had every opportunity, but I realized that that's not the way to go. And I became a Christian when I was 6 years old. And so I knew right from wrong.
Would you say that it was because of your mother's influence then that you knew that there was a different path, a better path to take?
Yes, because my mom took us to church and asked us that we want to go. She took us to church, and that's where, God really flooded my heart. And I knew that there is, from 6 years old, I knew the difference between right and wrong, even though I did wrong and I got penalized for it. I got whooped for it. But thank God for that seed of God, of salvation, in my life at a young age. And so when I became a teenager, I realized I couldn't do some things that my other high school mates were doing. And when in college, I couldn't do things that my other college mates was doing.
Talk about young people today in our community. You get to know them pretty well. Tell us about them.
Well, I see myself in many of them, but unfortunately, many of them make bad choices. And it's sad, because I see many of them that don't have a dad, or have a dad who's not in their life, or have a mom who's going through all kind of trouble and changes and no stability in their lives. And so, one of the things that God really spoke to me about years ago is that no matter how bad people are, young or old, don't give up on them. So we keep trying to reach them.
What kinds of things does Serve do to reach them?
Wow, we do a lot of community events. We go to a lot of events. We have a team of mentors who, if the juvenile officers probation asks us to work with a certain kid, we assign, I have another pastor who works with me, Pastor Jamar Fleming, and he has a team of young men, and we assign them to them. And they go and they work with that individual as long as they can. And that's been a tremendous help, because I realized, Susie, that I couldn't do it all myself. And so he and his team has been a blessing. They volunteer, and it's truly been a blessing. So we reach out to these teens. Even when they keep making mistakes, we keep reaching out, number one, to show them that, hey, we love them, God loves them. And so anything we can do to help turn them around, that's what we do. And adults, we work with adults as long as they allow us to. And that's what we try to do to help turn people around.
There's so many programs that seem to be working in tandem with all of this. I'm thinking of TICFA, I'm thinking of Martin Center, Monroe Center.
Yes.
There seem to be so many that work together, how are they doing? And do you have influence there as well?
Well, the key word for SERVE is collaboration. We collaborate with a whole bunch of different organizations. Because I'm the only staff member on SERVE. Everybody else serves us as volunteers. Now, Jim Knight, our crime prevention specialist, he works with me directly. But other than that, it's volunteers. And so all of these other organizations are a plus, are a blessing, because I can go down to the Martin Center 3 times a week in the evenings, and I can reach out to some young people that they already have who are there playing basketball. And so we look at the Southeast Community Center. There's kids that go there and play basketball. So all of these different organizations is a plus. It helps us to reach out to the community.
Tell me if I'm crazy. There is something about when there's a faith-based organization planted in a community like that, you feel totally safe in those neighborhoods.
Yes.
And so am I wrong to be feeling totally safe as I go door to door saying, hey, we had some extra food. Would you like some? To feel totally safe doing that. Am I wrong?
No, because those organizations affect that community, and people in the community know that they're there. And that's the blessing of having organizations throughout Stark County.
I want to go back to what you said about going back to the Martin Center 3 times a week and this mentorship, relationship kind of thing. You must have established some great relationships with some of the young men there. I feel that they probably feel free to talk to you about things they're going through without saying anything you shouldn't say. What can you tell us about that and the difference that makes?
Well, I think it gives them a sense of, hey, somebody cares about them, and it's safe. You know, they can talk to me, they can talk to Pastor Jamar, and it's safe. There's that connection there, and it's beautiful, and I thank God for it.
I also want to go back to something you said. There is a crime prevention specialist.
Yes.
How do we prevent crime?
Well, my belief is planting the seeds that, number one, you don't have to do it. I say let's keep preaching the message. Preach it to the choir, preach it to everybody. I think words are powerful. And so I think if we continue to say that, we continue to have slogans, stop the violence, make it right without a fight. So it's just a matter of getting that into people's heart. It's just like the Word of God. We get it in our heart, and it affects us. So I believe if we can continue to keep saying it and saying the same thing, stop the violence, it gets people to begin thinking before they act on something they shouldn't be doing.
What's the relationship in our community between the police force and young African-American men?
Well, in some areas it's not good because young men are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or they're doing things that are illegal. So already then in their mind, the police is their enemy. But I would say thank God for the Canton Police Department, the Stark County Sheriff Department, all the agencies, Highway Patrol, that all of them have been on board when SERVE, we resurrected. And so they will do the best they can to work with people and to give people a chance to explain, but again, they have to do their job.
Absolutely.
And
one of the things, their lives on the line every day to keep us all safe.
I mean, one of the things that they have done is really, and Chief Laver, is to train the officers on how to react to situations and also to de-escalate issues that come up, traffic stops, etc. And they've done a good job in that area.
And some training for some of the young men in the area to
Correct.
Just behavior during a traffic stop?
Yes. I was at, there was a training at McKinley High School, and 3 African-American officers, 2 from Canton PD and 1 from Ohio State Patrol were there. And they actually had young men come down and did like they were in a car. And they told them what they needed to do when they were stopped by a police officer.
It's almost like a job interview you need to practice for to know what to do.
Yes. That was tremendous. I was blessed when I sit in on that session.
There needs to be a trust building, doesn't there?
Yes.
We are visiting with Pastor Walter Moss from SERVE, and remind me again what that stands for: Community Initiative to Reduce Violence.
And
I almost had it.
And the Stark County Community Initiative to Reduce Violence, because now, before it was just a city program, but now we're in the prosecutor's office, so it's a county-wide program.
Stretching out to perhaps reach other counties?
Yes. Well, we can assist Youngstown has the project.
Awesome.
Dayton has it. Cincinnati has it. Toledo has it. And so we Dayton has it. We work with anybody and everybody.
So yes. If it's a model, if other communities would like to have it as well, they could possibly.
The Ohio Attorney General has it, and they actually go to places that don't have it officially like we do.
Awesome. All right, we need to take a break. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.